Good evening, Chaffee County Republicans. And I know it's Chaffee, not Chaffee. Somebody told me that. And I want to thank Dave and Jennifer for giving me a spot to speak here. My name is Jim Hemenway. I'm running for CD7, and I characterize myself as an America First reformer Republican. I'm married. I've got 3 kids. My wife and I live in Niwot. I retired about a year ago. I worked in the analytics space and for Wells Fargo and companies before that. I'm a political rookie. I'm not looking for a paycheck or a career stepping stone, but I'm tired of yelling at the TV. And I'm in it to win it because honestly our country's in bad shape and the current crew of incumbents has done a bad job. So let me explain the word reformer. We got to be honest, and I've talked to some of you about this, Republicans have lost 7 out of the last 8 presidential popular votes. Not by tons, but by enough. We've lost 9 straight elections in CD7, and the margin there, 57 to 40. That's a blowout. And as you guys know, that in electoral terms, that's a blowout. You know, the thing is, if we run a typical Republican, check every box, you know what's going to happen? We're going to lose. Voters know what an R is and know what a D is, and here, they prefer the D. So we got to make some changes. We somehow got to get 10 percentage points of Brittany's voters into our column. So how to do that? Well, I have a conversation with a guy, a friend of mine in the Boulder Party, and I say we have to be able to aspire to 55. If you can aspire to 55, there's no margin of safety. We need to aim higher. I have some ideas, which we'll get to at the end, but first I'll give you the red meat. In 2024, I would say the biggest issue, the reddest meat, the elephant in the room, is immigration. Seeing the images at the border, I would say if every Republican from Manhattan to San Francisco is not talking about this 24/7, you are committing political malpractice of the highest order, and you need to get a new campaign manager. When I see 50 now, the estimates are 8 to 10 million people have come in the 3 years of the Biden administration. When I see that, you know honestly what I think? The United States isn't my country anymore. It's not run for my benefit or your benefit or the benefit of our families and kids and stuff. It's run for the benefit of the world, and that offends me. So there's lots of problems with that. For one thing, you guys probably know, it pushes the electorate to the left. Right. That's why you can't win in California. You can't even win in Northern Virginia anymore. And Democrats are talking about, turning Texas and even Georgia blue. Well, why is that? It's not because they're doing a great job convincing voters to change. They're just bringing in new voters. So what to do about it? Well, we've got to start getting comfortable deporting people, is the short answer. We have to restore credibility. And lots of them. I mean, we had probably 12 to 15 million when Biden was elected, and he's led in 8 to 10 more, so we're into the 20s. We have to work that population down. Now, we can't get it down to 0. That's just not going to happen. And eventually, I'm open to a deal, but we got to reestablish credibility. So what does that mean? It means things like E-Verify, which is an employment verification system. It means repealing birthright citizenship. It means taxing remittances. It means mandatory cooperation with ICE, no more sanctuary cities, and potentially longer term, even lower legal immigration levels. And what's our concession? I'm willing to make a deal. Our concession is at the end of it all, 5 to 10 million people are going to be amnesty, and we have to be kind of okay with that. So let's move on to the money. National debt's $34 trillion, rising at a rate of about $1.6 trillion a year. You guys probably know that too. But here's the thing. The status quo is unsustainable, and we'll have to make a deal with Dems, because even if we can get to 55, Republicans can't do it by themselves. You've seen what a small majority will do. You do need some degree of bipartisanship, and I'm okay with that. So what do? Well, we'll have to agree on percentages for spending cuts, percentages for some tax increases, and then fill in the blanks and make a deal. I mean, if you don't want to do that, we'll just keep going on the status quo. And to me, that's not fair, to the young people in the room. And I got kids, and they don't like that. They know what's going on. It's unfair to people. We have to be adults here. For foreign policy, I only have 7 minutes, so there's not a ton of time to go into things. But I'll say this, and maybe you guys have noticed. Does it seem like we have a lot of enemies in the world? Yes. Yes. It does to me too. I do notice that. It's a longer conversation about how to avert that, but I notice, and it's a problem. How much time do I have?
You're still good. You got 2:27.
Okay. So I've given you some of the red meat. Now I'll give you some of the vegetables. I'll give you two vegetables here. The first big piece of celery, I think, that we need to start dealing with is global warming. This is my little prop. Wall Street Journal, a month ago, 2023 hottest year ever. Right? I've had people tell me, it's not true, it's not true. Well, look, every government agency around the world agrees about that. I talked to my kids. I had my kids videoing me at a meeting a month ago in Broomfield. And after the meeting, my son asked me, why do people not accept this global warming? And it's like, I don't know. I can tell you, young people are baffled. And that's one reason why we're losing out with them. Here's the thing, what do we need to do to solve it? Oh, and by the way, if we don't solve it, a lot of the things, I was talking to a guy right here, and I said, if we don't solve it, the thing is, the Democrats are not going to stop. There are a bunch of piecemeal efforts going on that are not productive, they're not dealing with the problem, and just make things kind of worse because they don't solve the problem and they add regulation. Or electric vehicle mandates, green power mandates, tax credits, and EPA rules, and ESG things. None of those are going to solve the problem, but they do add regulation. If we wanted to solve it in a free market way, we need a refundable carbon tax. It's a Republican proposal, and there's honestly no way around that. Nuclear, for example, everyone says, hey, what do you think about nuclear? I say I think it's great, but it's got a stigma. And in order to overcome the stigma, we got to equalize the, we got to give them an advantage to overcome the stigma. So enough about that. One other thing, healthcare. Republicans had the House, the Senate, and the presidency, 2 years in 17 when Trump was first elected, and they didn't do anything. And the reason they didn't is because it's a tough nut. It's hard. The voters like Obamacare now. And we have to focus on getting the expense down because the government pays for half of it anyway. Right? Medicare, Medicaid, we're paying for half. We have to get expenses down. You can go to my website to see some of my ideas. So I'll say this. I'll close. On the website, I say I don't think Dems are wrong about everything because if you heard the initial part of my speech, we need to get 10 or 15% of the voters to our side. Well, we can't just do nothing and expect them to come. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. I don't want to do that. You guys shouldn't want me to do that. I want to win, and I think we got to make a couple of concessions to win. I've got some cards over on the table, which I'll leave. I've got some envelopes for donations. I'm asking for your support electorally, but also financially. And thanks for giving me a spot.
And how do Republicans